showing me around the art and the city and talking about race and how that is. And I just felt like a kindred spirit. But what happened was my husband, Chen, had come with me on the trip. And Madai and I had met, and Philip was in the library. Then we went to pick up Philip, and then there was such a bond between Madai and Philip as sort of like an onlooker almost for a little bit of time. They just have so much to talk about in terms of art and what you're trying to achieve, and the medium being part of the message. And I think in printmaking, those of you who have done printmaking know how much the medium is part of the message. Painting too, but we become oblivious to it because we're so used to watercolors and oil paints. They all seem to be so normal. But once an artist starts to say, this isn't going to give the message I want to do something that has more force and more impact. Somebody like Madai reaches towards other materials. And so I'm going to turn it over to Madai.
I want to say thanks to you and Philip for your support, your encouragement, and I sincerely and honestly mean that. You know, I'm concerned about my friendships moving into the future, simply because everything is being challenged so directly as it relates to American history and the world at large. And true friendships are not going to be a smile and a pat on the back. It's going to be established through people communicating in a real way about who they are, where they come from, what they believe, what they're trying to achieve, and finding a commonality. So my friendships I'm making moving into my future is vital to me. And I say that because I recognize everything in this country is based on a race line. Everything. Again, something else came to mind when he was talking was reinterpreting the narrative.
Reframing the narrative.
Reclaiming the narrative. Reframing the narrative. That exhibition, if you didn't see it, if it's still touring, you must get it. You must try to find it. It's an exhibition that Lenore put together that deals with a broad history of what has taken place in America as it relates to, I would say, gender, race, economics, and a whole range of things. Literature, the art as well. I mean, it's just rich. When I left there in a deep meditative kind of thought, you know. Now, I need to ask you a question before we get to, talking about this work. In your thinking, what is the visual arts to you? I mean, let's just start right there. So, because sometimes people are engaged with something and they really probably, I don't know what their viewpoint is in terms of how does the visual arts tie directly into your life, or what role does it have? So let me begin there, and this is kind of like a conversation more or less with a big brother or a little brother, but I'm probably older than all of you, so I'm a big brother, so let's do it. So anybody want to strike out at that? Go right ahead.
For me,
why don't you say your name first?
My name is Genesis, and for me, it would probably be anything that catches my attention longer than it should. Because, if you're walking along the street or you're going to a class, sometimes there's always something or artworks all around us. But for me, it's just something when I look at it longer than I need to.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Respect. Anyone? Yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Isabella.
I'm sorry?
My name is Isabella.
Isabella, nice to meet you.
I would say for me, it's always been a different way of communication. Both from me communicating to others through art, but also having stuff communicate to me from art. So it's like a back and forth.
So it is actually something that's communicating directly to you. All right, got you. Anyone else? Like I say, don't be afraid of me because I'm standing up here talking, because it's really, I tell you the truth, if you followed me for about 5 minutes, you probably say, you can say, this guy's crazy anyway, don't get it back. You know what I'm saying? So don't take it. Like, so anyone else? Yes, please. I knew you were gonna say something. I was just waiting.
I'm Lily.
Hallelujah.
And I guess kind of what's always attracted me to art is the therapeutic nature of it, just kind of like working with your hands and like the methodic kind of process that comes with art.
So you're telling me then, when you're dealing with art or looking at art, you're dealing with it methodically, so to speak, in terms of how you handle, how you manipulate, that kind of thing? Okay, good point. Yes, good. What's your, did we introduce ourselves?
No.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
Shakayla. Yeah, the carry off
Y'all
what
got some good names.
thank you. The carry off what Lillian said, I use art as like a way to process things. Like a lot of the art that I do is related to me or like my past or like my culture. So yeah.
Anyone else want to say? Me and my God. Talk to me.
I would say for me, like I just think of like visual, kind of like what she said, but like it's a personalized story. Like you make it for, I don't know how to describe this. When I look at art, the way my mind processes it is different from how someone else may view it. So I like how it's a universal but yet still subjective piece of art that you can be witnessing. So
I respect that answer very much. I respect all of them. If anybody else wants, give me an opinion or give me your idea, and I'm willing to listen to that, because I don't want to do all the talking. I think sometimes something is lost in lectures, because I think people have thoughts in their minds that they really are thinking, they really want to share. So if you want to stop, ask me a question anytime, please feel free to do that. To me, I think art has played a role in the human evolution. It's always been there. And sometimes I think that given the busyness of our lives, we don't have too much time for anything. We don't necessarily feel. We're too busy to feel. We're certainly not taking the time to observe. And this is why I want to bring into perspective when I'm talking about art, or talking about the visual arts and imagery. Imagery, period, affects us deeper than we care to realize or give attention to. Often what images are doing in this culture is establishing mindsets without us knowing what it's doing. And the only people that recognize it is people who have the ability to withdraw from the culture, to withdraw from the business of the life, and ask serious kinds of questions. Where did this idea come from? What is this picture saying to me? Though it carries with it a narrative, but is it the narrative that perhaps is someone else's narrative, which many times it really is. You know what I'm saying? And what I really try and do as an artist is I want to, if possible, I want to come off the beaten pathway. Because typically when people think about we know paint, as Lenore said, plays a very, very permanent role in art. But I'm so glad for artists who are able to see beyond paint and begin to take other objects and bring them together to create a piece of work, an art. What I'm trying to do here is raise consciousness about American history. So I try to veer away from this fact of talking about black art or black this or black that, why don't we just call it history? Because it plays a permanent, it has played a role. When we think about it, there's a lot of people who were creative, but they died with their dreams. They would never, and sometimes when I'm working, I think about that, and I try to project a thought in some ways to represent the past, those who didn't have the opportunity or were denied the opportunity to show forth creativity, to offer to the culture its ideas, its perspectives. And so I think about that sometimes when I'm working. But as being who I am, I've been created by certain forces to feel the way I feel, to think the way, and so have all of us. When we really begin to think about it, there's been forces that has created the patterns of thinking, how we feel many times about ourselves and the life we live. So let me get my thought here. So this piece to me is a spiritual piece because it deals with brokenness. It deals with the people who are rejected, denied, slaughtered, so to speak. That's why I got all these rips and these tears in this work. And then the other thing that makes it interesting is that I'm not dealing with a medium that necessarily is a medium that people are familiar with when it comes to art. This is dirt. This is Iowa earth. And I'm using it because...
What's the name of it?
The spirit of Jim Crow lingers. Okay? And I was going to get to that too, but that's, if y'all don't know this, that's my girlfriend, my wife, my friend. They're all wrapped up in one package, you know what I'm saying? So some days I don't know if that's my friend, my wife, who is it? I got you, dog. I got you, thank you. So I'm dealing with a medium that sometimes is not familiar with most people. And it's a very primordial medium. It's nothing older than dirt. And everybody relates to it in some way or another without even thinking that they're related to it. If it were not so, then you and I would not be sitting here. It's because of the dirt, it's because of the earth that we're here. So I think it's very important to use the medium. And also, spiritually, because it has, for those who believe in the scriptures of the Bible, there's a scripture that says, and God he took the dirt or the earth and created man and woman. So that to me, in my making an image, lends itself to that kind of thinking as well.
Yeah, Madai, just to interrupt.
Please interrupt me.
And I'm not a religious person.
I'm not either.
But in Hebrew, the word Adam means dirt.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm glad you used that word religious. Because, oh my gracious, I'm getting ready to go trip right now, okay? So y'all bear with me. I'm getting ready to trip. I think religion is simply a handmaid of conquerors that has been used historically to control the minds of people, and it has little to do with spirituality. Because, now, blame Lenore for this lecture part here, because she threw in a key piece for me. Because when we really begin to understand spirituality and quote unquote God's kind of things, we got to understand that we're actually participating with the Spirit every day, directly and indirectly. however you want to call it or however you want to live with it, and it has nothing to do with protocol. It has nothing to do with rituals. It has simply a recognition that you are part of a force greater than you, and you know how to appreciate that force. Okay, I'm done with you. I'm done. I ain't gonna go no further down that highway because I can see that look in your face like this, man. I told you I was getting ready to start tripping. I gave you 4 months before I even jumped off, you know? So, again, when we're talking about imagery, we're talking about something that really has an impact on us. And I have to say this too, I've been guilty of this, but since I've gotten older, I've learned to take time to appreciate life. I only get one chance to do it. So I stop and I look at things intentionally. And I'm waiting for the thing to speak to me. For instance, I don't want to be do I sound corny? I sure don't want to sound corny. You know, sometimes you get kind of corny, you know. It's kind of going. But I take the time now to just look at a monarch, the butterfly, because they are now becoming extinct. And they're one of the most beautiful butterflies to me. And so I now look at the color. I take the time to watch them. I take the time to feel the air. When you come to a piece of artwork like this young lady said here, it has to be something that it attracts me. Take the time to take it in. And sometimes it doesn't mean it's going to alarm you or trip any triggers always, but it's in some subtle way or image is always going to kind of like do this, beckon you. Hey, there's something that's striking about it. Then if that happens, you need to pay attention to what is it communicating to you? Why is it important to you? You know? And take it in, take time to watch. Sometimes you can, if you take time to watch this here, watch how people go through galleries. And watch how much time they spend with one piece. Normally less than a minute and a half. Because they're not engaging with the work. They're too busy. They got to drink the wine, they got to eat the cheese, they got to talk, and all this kind of thing. So, paying attention to what the image is talking about. I'm almost done with this. This white cord has to do with everything that has happened to, it is the lingering spirit of white supremacy. That's why I put it right down through the middle. And there is no such thing as white supremacy. There's no thing as a supreme being. There's only human beings, humans, participating with life. And so, I'm looking at it like, okay, when you're making something, I'm speaking to history, but I'm speaking to truth. I'm speaking to it in a visual way, though, trying to express an idea that the things that has occurred in life is not necessarily what they tell us it is. To me, real power, it ain't because somebody got a big gun. That's know what the person with a big gun is? He is a brute. He's an intimidator. He's a forcer. Now, when I get through this lecture, y'all can go home and talk about me and say what you want, but that's really what that is. Anyone that uses an instrument or a force to make you do what you normally would not do, or intimidate you, or creates fear within you, that's a brute. I don't care if it's your government, your best friend, your girlfriend, your husband or your boyfriend. That's a brute. Now, I say that to say this right here. The most powerful thing that you have is your ideas and how you think about yourself, about your family, about your culture, and how do you interact with that? Because if you are able to communicate well enough, you are well enough equipped to revolutionize minds to change any environment, any circumstance. Help this old boy, help this old boy. So what I'm communicating here is, even with Jim Crow, I want to flip it on his ears. What does it mean to me? It just simply means to me, I don't have to cater to this. Let me stay with truth. Let me give my attention to truth. If it's just one light shining, let it be me. Because everyone that wants to dull their light and want to deny the truth, their spiritual truth, their identity, well then, you're not walking in light, you're walking in darkness because you're afraid to express yourself or to be who you really are. And that's the key right there, because once we tap into who we really are, we then begin to create beyond this visual art kind of thing. We begin to now bring ideas to change mindsets. And that's what I really want to do. Because I come from a background of slaves. I am not a slave. Why am I not a slave? Because I have been set free in my mind. And that's the key. A slave acts like a slave, thinks like a slave, and do what a slave does. I've been liberated. I've been liberated because I have discovered the truth. Why fear anyone? Fear is something that is an instrument that's working against you and I. And wherever there is fear is, there's somebody controlling that. I'm done with you. If you have any questions, and then I put these little circles here. It has to do with the inner world. It has to do with a little how individualized the people that were caught in this vicious cycle. Because the world existed within one's thinking. My world is not necessarily out here on the planet where I'm living at. The true world is in my thinking. How am I seeing things from in here, out there? Because once you're able to assimilate and then begin to express that in some way, you are what you call an influencer. You are someone that set the tone for other people. And this is one thing I got to say, and I'm closing here, but I got a home where I've had all kinds of people that come to my house. They have come from all over the world. And they have sat at my table, broke bread with me, from Cuba, from Haiti, from Africa, from Mexico, from South America. And what I've learned is that every individual brought to me something that was vital to my existence. Because what it did for me was it changed how I was thinking and brought me to understand that all people, I'm lecturing here, but that's okay. I'm still good. I tell myself. But I just sincerely believe that all people have this common thread that ties them together. They have souls. They have the same needs. They suffer from the same things. And I learned how to communicate. And I'm still learning how to do that. interesting enough. I haven't really grown to that degree, but I'm still learning. Let me say something about these cracks in this work. I love these cracks because it shows the brokenness of everything that has happened. And yet, out of all the brokenness, they still, as they say in the movie, we are still here. Still here. Sometimes it doesn't matter what your enemy necessarily thinks. It matters what you think more than anything. It matters what you think. Because if you and I are of good nature, it's all going to work to our benefit. Let's say it that way. I'm done. I hope I did something. But a beautiful piece of work, when I saw it today, it was like meeting an old friend again. I said, oh, gracious. I was like, wow. Because it had been sitting in my studio, and I would just be walking past it for the last years, or at least what is it? This is 2022, that's about 7 years old here. And for 7 years, I just walked past it. And someone else came along and seemed interesting, something they liked in it, and said, I want this. I'm going to tell you something else that's going to say a lot about you. Buy art. Buy original art. And I'm not talking about $20,000. I'm talking about $300 a piece or something, or $250. Go find your art friends on the campus and stuff like that, and begin to look at what they're doing and say what you want for it. If it speaks to you, take it if you possibly can. Take it, put it on your wall, because I believe that it has more to do with you than it has to do with the value of what you're paying for it. Anything that talks to you is worth it, especially when it is talking to you in your internal person. That's a good thing. You want to have that, because you can walk past it, sit at it, meditate over it, and just take it in at leisure. You know, anything that was said, did it resonate with you in any way?
It did. Can I ask you a few questions?
You're the artist, right? You're an artist.
Yeah,
I know you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I believe that in this world, you're sort of brought up to regard. I like what you said about being brought in the world and being conditioned.
I'm sorry?
Being conditioned to believe or act certain ways by virtue of the environment you've grown up in. And I think that sort of pigeonholes people into only acting or believing the things or doing the things that they know how to do, which itself is antithetical to the creation of unique original art in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if that's something that resonates with you, and if so, how you broke free or first realized those constraining forces, and how you worked to realize art that reaches outside of their bounds.
That's a good question. I can answer it this way. I studied Roman history. And I recognize how it plays in America today and what it has done to every black person in America. That's how I got free. You want me to talk a little bit more on that?
Well, that's a great resource. I'm certainly going to look into it.
Well, let me tell you what I mean so you can get on the right track with it.
Please, I'd love to.
When you study the Roman history, you have to recognize that the people in America come out of Europe. They come out of those territories of Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire. And so they brought a doctrine. They brought an ideology that had been created in Rome, specifically about the black man. There's a thing called the papal bull, right? And when you find the papal bull had gave certain decrees under Nicholas V. papacy, the Pope Nicholas V. Look him up, people. When I talk like this, I'm not talking to just talk. I'm talking to share some vital information. And Nicholas V sent out a paper bull or a decree, and he said, go throughout sub-Saharan Africa, slay, take, and subdue, and create and make them to be slaves forever. That's basically what it says. Now, this is how I got free. And when you're dealing with the history of and you got to remember now, we are the only people that don't have a history beyond 400 years of slavery. Anything beyond 400 years of slavery as it relates to African Americans or so-called African Americans, it drops off. You won't find it. You have to go beyond the history that's taught here. So that's how I got liberated. And I began to recognize something about religion through the Romans. Conquerors, study me out on this one. Go back to Babylon, go back to Medo-Persia, go back to Rome, go back to any conqueror always got to put a God and a religion in place. And then they began to move from there because it's about controlling the people. And when I say I got free, I simply mean that sometimes we have to discover a truth for ourselves. We can't stay on the beaten path that has been, say this is what it is and this is what it's always been and this is how you should be. If you stay on that path, then you're going along the path that the Lord tried out. So, but you're not going to find truth there because it's not necessarily resonating with you. I talk a lot. My wife tells me that all the time. She says, well, I don't want to hear it. Go talk to someone else. But that being said, I want to thank you for your time and being so hospitable toward me here today. Thank you very much.
Hey, Madai, I have a question.
Yeah, you're not getting off so easily.
No, we're not. And it's a question from the perspective of somebody that makes things like you. And there are a lot of people in this room that are artists. I work with many of these people in the creative setting. And they deal with the stuff you're dealing with, the self-evaluation and your worth and your identity. And you use the materials, what's valuable to bring forward, what's not, you know. So when you did mention that you like that painting, you respond positively to it when you saw it today. It's like an old friend. So that led me to think, can you think of an instance where you made something, some particular thing, and you rejected it? And can you talk about why you did not accept it? What some of the reasons might be why you don't evaluate something you've made very favorably?
I've got a lot of pieces like that.
And what's that about?
Yeah. That's about, we all have a certain expectation that's built within us. I mean, we have something that we like, and something that speaks to us internally about what we like. And as an artist, sometimes we're always looking for this balance of rhythm, harmoniousness, how everything plays together. And it has to strike us in a way where we say, oh, I like that. But by the same token, the things that I didn't like, when I rolled it up and put it away, and come back to it 2 years later, 3 years later, it knocks me off my feet. Because I didn't see something, it just speaks to me. Now, it was there all the time, it was just that it didn't resonate with me at the moment. You see what I'm saying? I got to say this here. If you haven't found your gift, you're still searching. There's a gift that's been put with it, and it's not always it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to do with the visual arts, but it has to do with something that's profoundly buried within you that you need to discover. And once you tap into it, you know you tapped into the right source, because from that come all the energy spilling out on you when you do it. Nobody have to encourage you to do it. Nobody have to inspire you to do it. You just do it because it just comes out of you. And once you do, now the key was the thing that's most detrimental is watch out for all the dream killers. They will kill you. And we're good for this in this country. That's why I talk a lot. So let me say this, I get it out the way. That's why when I start making art, I said to myself, I ain't making it to make money. I work in the dark, just as long as I can keep doing what I want to do, create what I want to create, say what I want to say, I work in the dark. And then, should I find someone that understands it, someone that celebrates and appreciates it, well, then I'm going to share that with them. You see, but I'm not going to let the gatekeepers, the galleries, the museums, the power people, because they don't let you in, keep me from doing what the gift that's within me. Am I making sense here? And believe me, if you do a study of all of the artwork that was sold in the last 10 years, you'll probably find out that most of them came from at least 10 artists, period, that's been promoted throughout the earth, throughout all the main places, while the rest of the audience, the rest of the creators are being rejected. That tells you something right there. You can't play the elitist game. You can't go through their doors thinking that they're going to embrace you because you got good art. Don't happen like that. I had to realize that. I'm right here in Des Moines, Iowa. Gatekeepers don't let me in, and I don't have to, nobody have to tell me I'm creating good artwork. I know I'm creating good artwork. I'm sorry, Phil.
No,
This is me.
Your question, your answer to my question is very interesting. Your evaluation of your work is a fluid situation.
Mm-hmm.
You stay attentive to the things you make. You have your opinions along the way, but it's an evolving situation. Your consciousness changes along with the way you perceive your work.
I think Carol wanted to.
I got her. I see her hand. But as you go, though, Phil, there's an affirmation along the way, like you and I meeting. Mm-hmm. And you said, "Oh my God," and I said, "Oh, Phil," and this is a powerful piece you just did. I love this thing. Affirmation, but it doesn't come from necessarily the sources that supposed to be the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I'm sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. I think you just answered my question indirectly, which was why too, but the first one is, what was that doing in your basement for 7 years? I mean, my God. So, but I think you kind of just indirectly answered that question. Maybe you have more to say on this, but so that's one. But the other thing is about your process with making that. It's, you talked about that there's dirt in it. And that is so compelling to me, in part because I don't know enough about artists' process to say this, but so you're using a material that is doing on the painting what dirt does.
Correct.
Right? So you did something to it to make it do what it does, which is very different to me than the application of paint. And I'm just wondering if you could talk about that. I'm not even sure what I'm asking.
Oh, I got you.
It's so visceral to me because of that, and I can't even describe what that is.
Do you know everything is talking? Everything is speaking, but we don't listen to it. When I picked up the dirt, I was looking for something different, and I had the dirt to talk to me. And I began with a simple process, taking it as it was in its rawness, and adding the different mixtures of things that make it adhere. And I saw what it did. And when it did what it did, then it told me something else. You need to try this too. So what I'm basically saying, and to answer you, is that sometimes the medium wants to talk. We got to let it talk though. You know, we can't overpower it so it doesn't resonate and speak. And that's what I'm really trying to do. And the funny thing about dirt, there's different hues, different textures. All of it don't really turn to mud. We think it does, but some of it don't turn to mud. Some of it is more granulated. It's more like a sand, so it doesn't adhere too well. But it does a wonderful job in terms of a watercolor. But you have to let that tell you that. So it's about when you're painting a piece, you can actually overpower the work and don't let the work talk to you. When you get to a certain place in a piece of work, as far as I'm concerned, eventually that work will have to start talking back to you now and telling you maybe you should put this here, or you should do this, or you should try that. And we got to be able to hear that from within our spirits, within our hearts, within our inner person, and respond, because the painting wants to become something, and we're helping it to become. That may sound very philosophical and long-range kind of stuff, but that's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. And you got to be willing to experiment. And you can't be afraid of a mistake. There is no such thing as a mistake in creativity. I just never accepted that. I said, there is no mistake. There's some things I don't like, or something I wish I hadn't done. But the fact of the matter, it came into existence. Go ahead, please, sir.
Yes, sir. This is Taylor. You made a comment about dream killers.
About what now?
Dream killers?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a young man as an undergrad at Texas Southern University, I had an art professor who graduated under Dr. John Lingers. And this particular class was an Art 101. And this professor was scrutinizing everybody. He would like, if your work wasn't up to his par, he'd tell you just quit drawing and get your daggone camera and start being a photographer. You know, but it kind of killed my dream, because I used to love charcoals and pastels. But one day I just stopped. But something else spoke to me, just like you said. The wood talked to me one day. And I started picking up wood and I started carving. I started making masks and statues and walking canes. And it was something that I had never done in my life. But it was something that was innate calling me and telling me to pick it up. And when you know and you feel that, you know, you can keep going in.
Because it has to resonate with the person, with the inner person.
Yeah.
It has to become important to the person.
Because when you said it speaks to you, that just hit me right then and there when you made that comment.
Yeah, and I created a piece called The Dream Killers. It was called it had to do with dreams that has never come to fruition. All the dreams that died in the hearts and the minds of people that's in the ground that never came and deliberately destroyed. I'm a fortunate person because I have this opportunity to do what I want to do. And this is what's important. Do what you want to do. Don't do what they say do. Please hear that what I'm telling you. When you do what you want to do, everything else that you're doing is employing what you want to do. Period. But if you're trying to work to get some money, to get ahead, to just to buy a house and to do all these things, that's okay. But what about the dream? What about what you want to do? There are too many people that work all their lives away. They just, you got your hand up, right? Let me get her, sister, right? Go ahead, little sister.
So you talked about how the wire had that significant. So I'm wondering, cause I like noticed that it's very like the colors or the color palette is very
It's dark.
So I see that there's some orange or red popping out, and I'm wondering if that also has a message behind
There's so
that.
much. Oh, I get to talking, I forget the simple things, don't I? My, what she should have. This red has to do with passion. It has to do with love, revenge, those kinds of things. That's what that orange red is really meant. And I don't use a lot of it, I just use hints of it, because everything that was done and is being done today in this culture is being done with passion, whether it be hate, whether it be love, whether it be whatever. But that's what this is, and then at the same time, I put it in all this blackness because for the people that were going through the Jim Crow era, it was very dark times for them. And yet at the same time, they were very passionate about certain things, keeping their children alive, trying to get ahead, you know, that kind of thing. So thank you for that question. That's a good question. That's a very good question. Very good question. Okay. Lenore?
I sort of want to relate a few things, and let me take this stuff. One of the things you've been talking about is how the painting is a process, and it almost continues changing and having meanings. A lot of people want to know what is the meaning of the painting, but the painting is always changing. It's a relationship.
Thank you.
And I think that's one of the things that strikes me about your work is how much it is about a relationship with the person who's viewing it, and it will never stay the same. And you talk about how you yourself don't stay the same. So things are always in flux, and one of the things that has kind of broken my heart to find out as an older adult was when you're young, you hear follow your bliss, follow your passion, don't let the man squash you, and keep true to yourself. And you might have the strength to do that, and you start on your path. It isn't a one-time thing. It's also something that every step of the way, when you think you're achieving something, the more you achieve, the more squashed you can, the more challenged you can be, and the more difficult things can become. Because just like Madai was talking about, the system wants to stay the way it is. It doesn't want your voice. It wants your conformity. And so as your voice becomes stronger, you might not be included. Or you'll be included in a way that is like throwing you a bone. One of the things I also wanted to say was that Madai talks about, you know, persisting even when the system rejects you and only wants the 10 greatest hit artists. But Madai also has persevered, and he has been in many major museum shows in this country. So when he tells you things about being rejected, it's very humble too, because he's also kind of persisted enough to be in there. He's not at, you know, he's not an unknown, but he also speaks about that experience because it keeps coming in waves over and over. So I just wanted to add, you know, how this is a process, how it's really about life, and your picture is so much about that. It's about, you know, the Jim Crow still lingering.
It lingers to this day.
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. And I'm gonna say this too, black and white people and others need to wake up to this fact. It ain't going anywhere. What has to happen has to be a mind revolution kind of thing in the people. that they understand whatever they see it at, that is their enemy. That's what's got to take place. And stop compromising yourselves. Now, when I'm talking to truth bearers. I'm not talking to Democrats or Republicans or independents. I'm not talking to evangelicals. I'm not talking to the religious. I'm talking to truth bearers. My work is for truth bearers. For those who understand the struggle of humanity. Not the struggle of black folks, not the struggle of white folks, not the struggle of India, but the struggle of humanity. Because once we catch that, we know that all of us are in a struggle together against the powers that be. And the powers that be has told us what we should, how we should dress, what we should wear, where we should go, what we should try to achieve. And it has categorized it very well for various people. But when we understand something, let us pursue our truth. And let us be humane about it. That's what I do. I'm not interested in trying to be famous. I'm not interested in trying to get rich. I'm not trying to do any of those things. That's for those who believe in that. I believe that one has got to meet their destiny. They got to understand there's a purpose on them. And there's a purpose and a destiny that they're trying to fulfill. And it ain't found in politics. Y'all look at me like I'm a little strange, but that's okay. I'm used to it, so I'm just used to it.
No, I think we're all.
Lenore, thank you all so much.